looking at the right ventricular outflow tract here, the interventricular septum, the left ventricle, the left ventricular outflow tract, the aortic root, and the left atrium. So maybe I'll just leave it. Let me see. Right, so starting out, the first thing we want to assess visually, are these chambers okay? Like I always say, the RVOT, the aortic root, and the airway in this view should appear to be of approximately the same size. So visually, you're already making an assessment if there's any enlargement, is there any mass, or is there any obvious abnormality? So in this case, we're not seeing any. Then we also look at this septum. How thick is it? Is there any irregular motion? Is there any arrhythmia? So we're looking at all this in parasternal lung axis view. Then we extend to look at the apex. This is the apex. Lesions hide in the apex. So is there any thrombus in the apex? Is there any arrhythmia? So now, in the absence of all that, in this view, we want to do a color evaluation of the left ventricular outflow tract. So we activate our color Doppler. Let the field of view for this be reduced. Then we evaluate, are we seeing any regurgitation? Is there any turbulence there? There is no obvious turbulence. Now we will still look at this again, but in echo we want to evaluate in different windows. Okay, from different planes. So we're doing this now. So far so good. Right. Having done that, there are a lot of things that we can evaluate from this, starting from the right ventricular outflow tract. So this is a good place to measure it in diastole. So in its widest form, we want to measure the right ventricular outflow diameter, tract diameter. So we measure it there. Let's see it. Okay. Now, in this view also, we want to measure now. Before now, of course, you must have seen us do it a lot of times, where we apply the M mode across, right? But the current BSc recommendation actually states that you do a 2D measurement. So what that means is that we'll measure this from here, right? Then we'll measure this. That's the left ventricular internal diameter, diastole, and the left ventricular posterior wall is the posterior wall. Okay? Next, we now measure in systole. Now when the cavity contracts during systole, we'll measure the left ventricular internal diameter. Let's get a good image. Are you following?
In diastole, like it opens.
In diastole, the heart relaxes.
Okay.
Or in systole, it contracts.
And this is systole.
This is systole. This is diastole. Systole. So we measure the left ventricular internal diameter system just beyond the mitral valve leaflets. Right. Now the next aortic. We'll measure the left atrium. So practically everything in the parasternal long-axis view we are measuring. Then we'll measure this. We'll evaluate the leaflets. We'll zoom in and evaluate the aortic valve leaflet, right? Now we say the one in front, the anterior leaflet, is the what? The right coronary cusp, while this posterior one is the non-coronary cusp. So when it's fully open, we measure the left ventricular outflow tract diameter. This is where we measure it from. Okay. So we have measured that. Are we leaving out anything? No. So these are the measurements that we make in the parasternal long-axis view. Now, also, since we're at this LVUT, since we're in this view, this is also where we measure the sinus of Valsalva. Alright, this is, you see where the widest portion of this aortic, so that's the sinus of Valsalva, aortic sinus, we measure. Now, this is the sinotubular junction, okay, aortic ST junction. We measure. A lot of people don't measure this. In fact, even way down for Chile measure this. But it's good to know it. Then the ascending aorta. Because beyond this point now, this is the proximal, the beginning of the ascending aorta. So we measure ascending aorta diameter. We measure here. Alright. So these are the basic measurements that we make for the parasternal long-axis view. Of course, sometimes you see us when you have a good parasternal long-axis view where this septum is as horizontal as possible. You see us do this and use the M mode. What the M mode helps us do is to also acquire this same measurement, but this is no longer the standard of practice. So we'll stop here and see. You can stop the video.